But let's move on to the Houston Outlaws, and I have a lot to say about the Houston Outlaws. Actually, not really. I have some stuff. Wait, Houston Outlaws didn't have a picture. So Houston Outlaws, they haven't really released anyone. They released Arhan, so that's like a kind of an obvious thing. But then they picked up Hydration from the Gladiators, and then they also picked up Blase from Boston Uprising. So right now, our Houston Outlaws roster is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So they have room for one more. But they have 5 DPS. They have Linkzer, Jake, Dante, Hydration, Blase. Their tank line right now, which is Spree, Kulmat, and Muma. Because Houston was stupid, all 3 of those players are under contract. Muma's under contract, Kulmat's under contract, Spree is under contract. So they technically can't release any of those players, and they can't sell the players. No, the thing is, okay, the only player they can release right now that is a DPS is Dante. Legally, they aren't allowed to release Linkzer, and they aren't allowed to release Jake. And they're not releasing Blase, and they're not releasing Hydration, because they just picked them up. So now they're in a thing where they if anything, they have to get rid of Dante, right? And they re-signed Boink, so we know that's not a thing. They already got rid of Arhan, but they still have Bonnie. I think they'll release Bonnie as well. Okay, but do you really think you can sell Linkzer? What team right now would say, oh yeah, we want Linkzer as a starter? Someone who hasn't really done anything last year. And along with Jake. Jake is the face of Houston Outlaws, so I really don't think that they'll be getting rid of Jake. But Jake has no room in this roster. Maybe Jake becomes like a coach or something, or retires. But Jake doesn't have room as a player on this roster. He will see no playtime. And Linkzer is like your only quote-unquote hit scan player, because what does Dante do? Dante does Tracer, and he also does Flexing, and so does Blase and Hydration. So yeah, I don't think Jake will retire either, but if Jake doesn't retire, you're literally stuck in a position as Houston Outlaws where the only player on this list you can remove is Bonnie. So you get rid of Bonnie, and then you only have 2 roster spots left. And what do you do with that? Like, once they announced Blase, I was having hope once they announced Hydration. I was like, okay, this team can be good. And then they announced Blase, and as Blase is a good player, don't get me wrong, I love Blase, but this removes like so much flexibility you can have with the roster. So right now, so you get rid of Bonnie, what are you gonna do? You're gonna pick up a main support, right? Because there's no way you're starting Boink, right? There's no way someone like Harsha sees potential in a player like Boink. So you get rid of Bonnie, you sign a main support, right? Just any main support. Let's just say now you're back with 11 out of 12, and what do? Do you try to get a flex support to replace Raucus like Sleepy? No, Boink is really bad. Boink is horrible. But so do you get like a flex support to replace Raucus, who's another bad player, or do you get an off tank to replace Spree and Coolmat? So since you can only do one of the two, which one do you do? No, Boink last year was maybe their worst player. I'd say Raucus was their worst player last year, but Boink was really up there. Boink he's a good backup to have, but he's not a starter caliber. He hasn't been a starter caliber since he got picked up by the Houston Outlaws. But this roster, because they signed Blase, unless they release a DPS, which legally right now they can't because of contracts, this roster is looking way worse. Because I thought they were going to replace just about every position but Muma, because Muma is a solid player. Now you picked up Hydration, you could run Hydration, Dante, Jink, and Linkzer, which is a good DPS line. And then you could add a flex tank, and then you could also add a main support and a flex support with what they had before. But they completely screwed themselves over. So I have no idea what Outlaws is doing. I know Outlaws tried to get Nevix, but they couldn't afford him. But even then, this roster it's weird saying the roster became so much worse because they picked up Blase, but I don't think you can make an argument where this roster will be good simply because they have to either start Raucus, Boink, or Spree or Coolmat. Yeah, Nevix will be playing. Nevix got picked up by Toronto, so Nevix will definitely be same playtime. But I have no hope in Outlaws right now simply because this happened. Simply because Blase got picked up. Yeah, you have 5 DPS. What are you gonna? You're gonna throw Hydration and Blase as your new tank line? I know it's a joke, but this, like, it could happen. It could happen where you put one of these players on a different role that isn't DPS. And then you're screwing yourself over, because if you don't put, like, Hydration or Blase, let's say both of them are on a different role, now you have to run Lynx or a Jake who weren't good at last year. So, you won't watch Overwatch League because fuck Blizzard. Yeah, I get that, but I'm still, I don't support Blizzard, but, you know, I like Overwatch League too much in order to not watch it. But that's what's going on with Houston Outlaws. It's a mess of a situation. So, and also, I don't know where they got the money to afford Blase, because right now Houston Outlaws doesn't have an owner. I know I touched on this in one of my videos this week, but Houston Outlaws are owned by the same people that own Valiant right now, because they weren't able to sell Outlaws. And one of the reasons they also can't sell Outlaws, I think someone reported on this, is because Texas banned the Houston Outlaws logo from being worn at schools because it has guns on it. So, T-Mobile money. Yeah, T-Mobile money is the greatest money. But yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen with Houston Outlaws, but as soon as they re-signed Boink, I was like, okay, but that's a roster spot that you removed from getting a much better player. And then they signed Blase, and Blase is a great player, but it again removes a roster spot from someone replacing like a Raucus or a Spree or Cool Matt. So I have no idea what's going to happen with Outlaws, but I'm not too high on him. They were a lot higher as soon as they announced Hydration, but then they announced Blase, and again, I keep repeating it, Blase is a good player, it screws up the Houston Outlaws.